Given the frame of reference that we have worked on up to this point, we are now in a position to begin to address the healing process. Let's start here with the first phase of this process, which is the identification of the evil that is affecting you. As its name says, here it's about clearly defining what is causing the discomfort you feel. What is the real problem you are facing? Since it is true, you are going to come with a general topic to the consultation. For the purposes of this program, you are suffering because your girlfriend or boyfriend left you or cheated on you, and you want to dissociate from her or him to move on with your life. But in practice, we have to identify the real cause of the discomfort you feel. This is resolved through a series of questions that I ask you in my consultation, which are aimed at discovering the nodule of the psyche that you are facing. What is the nodule of the psyche? In simple terms, is the conflict that prevents you from going forward or backward, in psychic terms. For example, when a relationship ends, you know very well that you want to forget your girlfriend or your boyfriend to move on. That is the rational part of this matter. I have not had any patient over the years who does not have absolute clarity that when a relationship ends, they, for their emotional well being, must move on. But they cannot. Why? Well, clearly because there's a nodule in the psyche which prevents them from moving forward. The causes can be infinite. For example, the patient might fear the reaction of his family or friends because of the abandonment he has suffered. This is where a humiliation complex manifests itself. Or he might also fear not living up to what is expected of him. That is a complex of not meeting the expectation of others. If you notice, in this part of the healing process, you begin to observe that what causes the discomfort is not what the patient believed at the beginning of this process. That is to say, the abandonment by his girlfriend or boyfriend, but the fear aroused by the fact of the perception that others will have in relation to his failure. Therefore, in your particular case, what you have to ask yourself is what really causes you to feel distressed or depressed. Deep down, you identify the true evil that is affecting you. Let's move on to the dynamics to discover the real conflict you are facing. First of all, I want you to clearly define what is bothering you. Maybe you fear that your partner will cheat on you, or maybe you are afraid that he or she might leave you, or you are tired that the relationship is not going the way you would like it to. This could be the part where you tell me what brings you to the consultation. It is important that you can define what causes the state of discomfort that you feel at this moment. Based on that, the next thing I want you to think about is what causes you the most fear associated with the discomfort you feel. Basically, here I want you to define what is the terrible future that you do not want to face once the situation you are running away from occurs. If you fear that your girlfriend or boyfriend will abandon you, what do you think could happen next once these events occur? The next thing I want you to determine is whether that state of fear that you are experiencing occurs in relation to yourself or in relation to others. You must consider that on some occasions, it is one's own internal fears that cause one to become stuck in terms of life decisions. These are the perceptions of what one should do or avoid in order to continue feeling that his life has meaning or that he continues to be valuable in his own eyes. What do you think happens internally in your case? Once you defined this, You must determine if the fear you feel is due to a potential conflict with other people, whether from your closest environment, such as your family or friends, or people who, although they have nothing to do with you, they still cause some effect in relation to the assessment you make of yourself, such as neighbors or work colleagues. Who affects you? If I ask you this question, it is because in most cases, people do not want to accept that there are people who have influence on them. The key here is that you can recognize if the fear you feel is related to some people who hurt your ego. Therefore, what people are you afraid may say something about you. Once you have defined the above, you must take into consideration that this state of fear that you face generally occurs for three reasons: humiliation, shame, or chaos. In the first case, I want you to think about what kind of humiliation you feel you could experience because of that situation that you do not want to happen. For example, you might fear that people around you will make fun of you. If you define this, you will realize that your fear is not associated with your girlfriend leaving you, but actually with what others may say to you. Therefore, what do you think others are going to tell you once the breakup that you so want to escape has occurred? An efficient method of dealing with humiliation is that you can learn to laugh at yourself and at the people who are going to subject you to that state of humiliation that you fear so much. I am going to work on all of this in greater depth in the psychoanalysis program, where your psyche is completely reinforced. Once we have defined the humiliation that you do not want to experience, the next thing I want you to define is what type of shame you feel because of that traumatic situation. For example, in the case of a partner who abandons you or cheats on you, shame is always associated with failure. I am ashamed of not having fulfilled a life goal that I had set for myself. I am ashamed that I wasn't a better boyfriend or girlfriend. Deep down, I am ashamed of not having been a better man or a woman. What do you think is happening to you in this case? Now, in the face of shame, the important thing is that you manage to give its fair measure to the opinion that others have about you. The key here is that little by little, you can define some activities that you like and do them, regardless of the perception that others have regarding that particular activity. If you like putting together a puzzle or painting, you should take the time to do it, beyond what others think. This will allow you to gradually break with that part of your psyche that limits you at this moment. After defining humiliation or shame, I want us to focus on the fear of the case. And to do this, I want you to answer the following. What aspect of your life will change if the situation that causes you so much fear occurs? If you look, most people develop a state of anxiety because they fear that if their partner leaves them, their life will completely change. Therefore, the key here will always be that you start developing your own routines. If you don't want your life to become chaos, it will be very healthy for you to be able to gradually establish your own activities, regardless of what your partner does or does not do. That will allow you to regain control of your life, which is an important part of this healing process that we are working on here. Thanks to everything we have seen so far, I am sure that you already have enough clarity regarding what is really causing the pain you are experiencing at this moment. Knowing what really hurts us is a fundamental step so that you can accept what happens to you, stop fearing it, and eventually overcome it. Let's move on to the next phase of the healing process that we are working on here, which is dissolution. I'll see you there.